So welcome back everybody, my name's Andrew and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. If this is your first time visiting the channel and you like the content, we'd appreciate it if you throw a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help the channel grow. So on today's episode, we just got 2 days of rain, which we needed. We were starting to get burn up grass, dead spots. We were going into another drought. Well, we've got 2 inches of rain over the last 2 days. That's enough to settle the dust, to dampen the soil up so I can disc it in. So we're heading out to the dove food plot right now. I probably should have already done this, but it's just been so dry. And what we're gonna do is disc the ground in one more time, which we've already done in that last episode. And we're gonna cover up all the new weed growth, and we're trying to get everything killed off, the grass, the seeds, the weed seed, everything else, before it has time to put more seed on. So essentially what we're trying to do is cover all the weeds up, kill them off, block sunlight from them, and disturb the roots of them. And we're trying to do this before they have time to seed out again. Otherwise, all you're doing is planting seed, again, weed seed, and they're just gonna pop right back up. So I've just pulled out to the plot. We're gonna get it all disced in, and in a few more days to a week, which I'll include in this video, we're gonna go buy our brown top millet seed and we're gonna plant it out here. So essentially what this episode is us putting in our dove food plot for the year down here in Florida. So here we are heading out to the food plot. Everything to the right over here in this upper section, that's what I plant for my deer plot. We'll put some peas out there in just a few more weeks, but where we're heading is to this middle and lower section that's straight in front of the camera. It's about 4.5 acres that I usually plant brown top millet every year, and this is where we like to bring the dove in. Now, even though we just got 2 inches of rain, we may still be dry. We've been in a heck of a drought in a bunch. We've had like 2 weeks of triple-digit days. So I'm gonna throw this thing in 4-wheel drive, B-range to pick our speed up. Let's go. I'm not going to disc as aggressively this time because I'm trying to level the field out and get ready for seed. So if you watched one of my last episodes to where I installed this camera, this is one thing I really wanted it for. Now I've got a rear view camera facing, and I can make for sure that my discs are falling over into this last furrow made on the previous pass. So if you're new to the channel, you may have never seen this, but I use this often. This is a roller packer, and it is full of water. So essentially I've created a rolling device with a lot of weight to press seed into the soil, because to get good germination, you need good seed to soil contact. This is a critical piece of equipment for me. But I ran it into a tree a couple different times, couple of years ago with the tractor and wound up bending this frame right here and breaking it. And it was really light duty stuff anyway, so I temporarily just scabbed it back together. But it is now time to rebuild this frame. So we're gonna do that while we're waiting for everything to die off. And we're gonna use this a little later in the episode to go out there and plant and pack those seeds. So this was actually one of the first welding projects I ever did in my life. I built this thing a long time ago. I think this is 2 100-pound propane tanks. I cut the ends off, welded it together, and then welded the rebar on for extra packing, rigidity to hold the structure together, and to help it really grab and turn. I've got some medium duty carrier bearings on there that can also be greased. And like I said, I built the frame out of way too light duty stuff, but this is all I could get available to me back then. I didn't really have a metal supplier. And this was the, like I said, first welding project I ever did, and it's held up for many years of heavy use. So I'm very happy with the way it turned out. So let's get this frame tore off and build us up a new frame today. I would say that was a successful repair. You've got this nice and painted up, and the frame now is significantly stronger than this old one over here. Actually, this metal is twice as thick, and the bracing is a little beefier too, which I never had any problems with the bracing over there. It was just this one long piece right here, and really there was no problem with that. When I caught the corner of a tree right there and was going this direction, well, the tractor had plenty of power to bend this, and eventually it broke off. So it was my fault more than anything, but I've always been wanting to beef up the frame on this anyways, because when this is full of water, I mean, this whole setup here is several hundred pounds, so there is a lot of force going on. I'm dragging it back and forth. All right, so since I cannot get my wonderful old four-wheeler to crank, it needs a new carburetor, tune-up, fuel lines, everything. It's ancient. We're gonna try to spread seed with this big fertilizer spreader. I typically do not like doing this because, well, you can't hardly see what's going on with this big machine right here. At least not from the cab of the tractor. Millet seed is so stinking tiny. I like to spread it from a fuller so I can really see what's falling out of the hopper, make some fine adjustments, make sure I'm covering the ground good. Now, I'm actually quite proud of a design I did on this, and I'll show the video. I'll put it down in the video description, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have it pop up at the end. But many years ago, I actually modified this hopper. As you can see, it's got a big handle on it. Really, these are best for open station tractors that don't have a cab. And you reach around and reach way back there, and then you can lift and lower this gate opener is what it is, to allow the flow and flow control of seed, fertilizer, whatever else you have in here. But I actually wired mine up with an actuator, and I have a push button in the cab, so I can open and close from the comfort of the cab. I don't have the window open and fertilizer blowing in, seed blowing in, none of that mess, and I can make fine adjustments with the push of a button. I really, really like that. All right, so I'm gonna get this hooked up. I need to fire the tractor back up. It's gonna be hard to hear, and then I'll show you that actuator. We're gonna put the brown top millet seed in here and go spread it as best we can. It's gonna be relatively difficult to see, no doubt about that. Make sure this actuator works. It's been quite a while since I used it. You'll see this go up and down, and it'll open and close the gates on the spreader. Start out, I think, with 3 bags of brown top millet seed, or about 4 acres. I do have an extra bag if I don't spread this correctly. Now, brown top millet seed's really small, as I'm about to show you, so there's a ton of it in there. So a little less than 50 pounds an acre broadcasted is actually very, very thick for brown top. But I have found out over the years, the thicker you plant it, the better it does with weed competition. It tends to kind of smother all the weeds out. But you gotta make sure you fertilize it good. All right, so here's what brown top millet seed looks like. Very small. Each of those seeds will make a single plant that'll put off a bunch of seeds on its own. All right, so I just checked the radar, and we already have rain building up. It's actually been 90 to 100% chance of rain for like the last week solid. So I'm racing against Mother Nature here, which is great. I'll take the rain. We got mighty dry at the beginning of the year, and now we're going into a heck of a wet stretch. So I'm going to plant this different than I've ever planted before. I'm actually going to go broadcast this seed out on the ground itself, which just got 2 inches of rain yesterday, so it's heavily packed. I don't like that. Typically I like to put the seed over fluffy ground and pack it right in, but I'm going to do something a little different today. So we're going to broadcast this all over a field that's heavily rained on and packed. Then I'm going to come back behind with my disc, lightly disc it in while I'm pulling my packer behind that and then packing it into the soil. Problem with that is if I cover the seed up too much, because it's so small as you just seen, that can actually keep it from germinating. So luckily I'm putting it out so thick, I think we'll be okay. Now here's something I'm so excited about. This will be my first time ever using my fertilizer and seed spreader right here with my new camera system. So I don't know if y'all watched the video, but look, now I can look straight down into the hopper because my camera is mounted all the way up here, and I can see all the way down into the cone and clearly see how low I'm getting, adjust my feed rates, my speed of the tractor, all that stuff. By the way, the flicker you're seeing on screen, that's only because I'm recording that screen with a camera. You don't see that in person. Oh, that's gonna be so nice. I just lifted my hopper all the way up and the camera is still perfect. I can look all the way down into it. I've never had that function before. All right, so we're coming up to the field here. As you can see, it's got some greenery out there, even though I've done distancing twice. Believe it or not, that is volunteer millet. It's coming up from last year. This stuff is annual and will come up for quite a few years before it actually dies off. And being that I plant it every year, it's just gonna keep coming up. But that's okay. We're planting millet, so I don't mind that some's already out there, which we're about to chop some of that up. All right, you're not gonna be able to see much from this camera right here, but I'm about to kick on the PTO, and we're gonna see how far this stuff swings, adjust our RPM, and start opening that handle and gates right there. I've got to kind of figure this out. This is a first for me. So let's kick the PTO on. All right. Start opening this gate, see how far this stuff goes. All right, so I'm hooked up to the disc. We're gonna swing around and get some diesel. This is awesome. Assuming I have my tank set up where I can actually reach it with this big old set of discs behind me. Probably should have filled up first. If y'all haven't watched that episode, I finally now have a diesel transfer tank. It is so stinking cool. Better fill the tractor up quick and easy. So if you haven't watched the episode that I just released, I had a viewer and friend donate me a homemade diesel transfer tank, and then I modified it, added a rack and cargo area to it, and got me a fill right transfer pump. Let's see if this will reach. It will. So I keep it in the back of this truck. The truck stays under the barn all the time. Should have no issues. And it's just a manual hand piston pump, and it works well. So nice to be able to do this versus having to pull over there and fight with 5-gallon cans. Not to mention it's so nice having my fuel filter too. We get a lot of buildup in our fuel down here in the south. I don't know how it is in the north, but we get what we refer to as an algae bloom in it, even though I think it's technically a bacteria, but it just looks like algae floating around in there. I'm so happy to filter that out. I probably have to change these filters out quite often because I bet it's going to plug them up pretty good. All right, and just like that, we are topped off, ready to get to work. All right, so in order to speed things up, I have welded on a reese hitch on the back side of my disc. So not only can I disc the ground up, cover the seed, I can pull my roller packer right behind this and pack it in. So it saves an entire trip over that big field. All right, let's get out here and try out this new frame that we welded up. All right, well, I just checked the radar. We have rain coming from that direction right there. So fingers crossed I can get this covered in time. But I'm already looking at the clouds and I have a lot of disking to do. Let's get with it. So check this out. Just planted this, shut the tractor off, came back out, and there is already dove out here feeding around in the food plot. They're going to pick up all the seed that didn't get packed, and fresh dirt like that is just absolutely crack to a dove. They can't help it. Alright, so we were just on the other end of the field, and I was looking at dove back this way. Look, there's dove flying out of here. They're already up in the trees, some flying across the field over there. So what they'll do, even though I've did a pretty good job of covering and packing the seed, I mean, I don't even see any right now. There's still some they're gonna go out there and scratch and find. And they're already used to coming here every afternoon because of all of the oats and other things that we chopped up down there that's been on the ground. Now they've got this fresh new dirt that they're curious about, and they'll find some seed in it till it grows up, and they're just getting used to this area. So I know some of y'all are gonna ask, what about the dove power line? I've been talking about doing a dove power line. I've got power poles, I got cable. I still need a few other things. Life has been so busy here lately. We've kind of been on lockdown with Tiffany just going through COVID. We're working on the outdoor kitchen stuff. We're trying to get a pool going. We're still wrapping up house stuff. It has been hard to dedicate a full day to coming out here and doing the dove power line build. I'm just not sure where I'm at just yet. Even though I've got millet in the ground, it may start coming up. I'm not saying I'm not gonna come out here and still put a power line up anyways and drive over a little bit of millet. It is what it is. There's plenty out here for a few of us to hunt over. So I just don't know about that yet. Got to find the time. So much stuff to do. Well, the good news is they're calling for rain for like the next 10 days. So good chance this is going to get soaked in. So what's going to be coming up next, we'll let this germinate and start growing up a few inches. So it'll grow for, you know, just 2-3 weeks. And then I'll come back over this entire plot with some fertilizer, and we'll fertilize all this in, pray for a little more rain, and then it really takes off after that shot of fertilizer. So we'll show that process as well. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next one.